Ay, not worth much to make you, but nothing for a more bed.
I am not worth much, but I'll give you whatever you want for a warm bed. I can even spread my legs. She whispered those words to a stranger in the storm, desperate and dying, expecting cruelty or lust in return. Instead, he stepped aside and said one word: no. What she didn't know was that the man staring at her in the firelight wasn't just anyone. He was a king the world believed was dead, and when he refused to take what she offered, he chose to protect it instead. But protection has a price, and some secrets are too dangerous to stay buried. Now, hunted by enemies who want her blood, and bound to a man haunted by betrayal, she must choose: run and die alone, or stay and discover why her blood makes him kneel. A broken woman, a hidden king, and a door that changed everything. Chapter 1. The Offer in the Storm. The forest had teeth tonight. Wind screamed through naked branches, bending pines until they groaned. Rain fell in sheets so thick Willa Hampton could barely see her own hands stretched out before her. Cold bit through the torn fabric of her dress, through skin, straight into bone. She was dying. Not quickly, not mercifully. Slowly, the way prey dies when the hunter wants to savor it. 3 days since the fire. 3 days since her mother's scream cut through the night. 3 days since Wesley Cantrell's mercenaries turned her home into ash and her pack into ghosts. Willa stumbled over a root and went down hard. Her palms hit frozen earth. Blood from the gash on her side had dried stiff against her ribs, pulling with every breath. Hunger made her head swim. When was the last time she'd eaten? Yesterday? The day before? She couldn't remember. Her wolf whimpered inside her chest, too weak to surface, too broken to fight. Get up. The command came from somewhere deep, from the part of her that remembered her mother's face before the flames swallowed it, from the part that remembered Lydia Hampton's last words. Run, Willa. Don't stop. Don't look back. So she'd run. And now she was here, somewhere in the Northern Territories, lost in a storm that wanted her dead almost as badly as Cantrell did. Through the rain, a light flickered. Willa's head snapped up. For a moment, she thought she was hallucinating. But no, there it was again. Warm, golden, real, a cabin. Her body moved before her mind caught up. Stumbling, falling, crawling when her legs wouldn't hold her. The light grew brighter, closer. The cabin materialized through the storm like something out of a dream. It was small, isolated. Smoke curled from the chimney, barely visible against the dark sky. Someone lived here. Willa's hand found the porch railing. She pulled herself up the 3 wooden steps, each one a small miracle. Her knees buckled as she reached the door. She should leave. She should run. Strangers were dangerous. Everyone was dangerous. But the cold was eating her alive, and the blood loss made her vision blur at the edges, and she was so tired of being afraid. Her fist hit the door. Once, twice. The sound seemed impossibly loud. Silence stretched. Maybe no one was home. Maybe the light was a lie. Maybe she would die here on this porch, frozen against wood that didn't care. Then footsteps. Heavy. Measured. Close. The door opened, and Willa forgot how to breathe. The man standing in the doorway was tall, broad-shouldered. Dark hair fell across his forehead, damp like he'd just come from outside. But it was his eyes that stopped her. Gray. Storm-colored. Sharp enough to cut. He didn't speak. Neither did she. For 3 heartbeats, they just stared at each other. His gaze traveled down, taking in her torn dress, her bare feet caked in mud and blood, the way she swayed like a tree about to fall. Willa opened her mouth. Words came out, thin and desperate. I am not worth much. Her voice cracked. She swallowed, forced herself to continue. But I'll give you whatever you want. Just a warm bed. Please. I can even spread my legs. The silence that followed was suffocating. His expression didn't change, didn't soften, didn't harden. He just watched her with those impossible eyes, and Willa felt something inside her crumble. She'd offered herself, laid herself bare, and he was going to say no. She could see it, feel it. Her knees started to buckle. Then he moved. One step back, one step to the side. The door opened wider. "No," he said. The word hit her like a fist. No. Of course. Of course he didn't want her. She was broken and bleeding and worthless, just like she'd said. And why would anyone? "Come inside." Willa's head snapped up. He wasn't smiling, wasn't leering. His face was carved from stone, hard and unreadable, but his hand extended toward her. Not grabbing, not demanding, offering. "You're freezing," he continued, voice low and rough like gravel underfoot. "Get inside before you die on my porch." Willa stared at his hand, at the door, at the warmth spilling out from behind him. This was a trap. It had to be. Men didn't refuse offers like hers and then help anyway. Men took, men used. Men like Cantrell burned everything that didn't belong to them. But her body didn't care about logic anymore. She stepped forward. Her foot crossed the threshold, then the other. The door closed behind her with a soft click, sealing out the storm. Heat surrounded her immediately. A fire crackled in the hearth across the room, orange light dancing across rough wooden walls. The cabin was simple, clean, a single space with a bed in one corner, a small kitchen in another, and the fire in between. Willa stood dripping on the floor, shivering so hard her teeth rattled. The man moved past her, not touching, not crowding. He grabbed a towel from a hook on the wall and held it out. "Dry off." She took it with numb fingers. The fabric was soft, clean. It smelled like cedar and something else, something wild. Wolf. Realization hit her like lightning. He was a wolf, like her, but stronger, so much stronger. The power radiating off him made her own wolf cower. "What's your name?" he asked. Willa's throat closed. Names were dangerous. Names could be traced. "It doesn't matter," she whispered. His jaw tightened, but he didn't push. "Sit." It wasn't a request, but it wasn't cruel either. Just firm. The kind of voice that expected to be obeyed. Willa's legs carried her to the chair nearest the fire. She collapsed into it, and the warmth hit her like a drug. Her eyes fluttered shut. Footsteps approached. She tensed, but he only crouched in front of her, eye level now. "You're hurt." Not a question. Willa's hand instinctively covered her side, where the gash bled through her dress. "It's nothing." "Let me see." "No. Let me see." His voice dropped lower, still not angry, but absolute, like gravity. Willa's hand fell away. He pulled back the torn fabric carefully, revealing the wound beneath. It was deep, ragged, infected at the edges. He swore under his breath. "This needs to be cleaned. You'll get blood poisoning if it isn't." "I'll be fine." "You'll be dead." The bluntness startled her. Willa met his eyes and found no pity there. No disgust. Just cold, hard fact. He stood. "Stay here." Then he was gone, disappearing through a door at the back of the cabin. Willa's gaze darted to the front door. She could run. Should run. This was insane. She didn't know this man, didn't know what he wanted, but her body wouldn't move. He returned carrying a metal box and a bowl of steaming water. Setting them on the low table beside her chair, he knelt again. "This will hurt. Everything hurts." Something flickered across his face, too fast to read. His hands moved with surprising gentleness. He dipped a cloth into the hot water, wrung it out, and pressed it against her wound. Willa bit down on her lip hard enough to taste copper. Fire spread through her side, white-hot and vicious. He didn't stop, didn't apologize, just worked with steady, practiced precision, cleaning away dried blood and dirt. "Who did this to you?" The question was quiet, almost conversational. Willa didn't answer. "Someone's hunting you." Still not a question. "How do you know?" "Because you knocked on a stranger's door in the middle of a storm and offered yourself for shelter." His gaze lifted to hers. "People only do that when they're out of options." Heat crawled up her neck. Shame. Humiliation. "I didn't mean—" "I know what you meant." He returned his attention to the wound. "And I'm telling you that you don't need to offer anything. You stay. You heal. That's it." "Why?" "Why what?" "Why help me? You don't know me." His hands paused. For a long moment, he didn't answer. Then, so quietly she almost missed it. Because someone should have helped you a long time ago. Willa's breath caught. Before she could respond, he pulled back, reaching for bandages. You need to get out of that dress. It's soaked and you'll catch pneumonia. Panic flared. I don't have anything else. I know. He stood, walked to a chest against the wall, and pulled out a shirt. Dark gray, soft-looking. When he turned back, his expression was carefully neutral. I'll step outside. Change. Leave your dress by the fire to dry. Then he was gone, the door closing softly behind him. Willa sat frozen for several heartbeats. This wasn't real. Couldn't be real. But the shirt in her hands was warm, and the fire was crackling, and the storm was still raging outside. Moving like she was underwater, Willa stood. Her fingers fumbled with the ties of her ruined dress. The fabric peeled away, stiff with blood and rain. She let it fall to the floor. The shirt was enormous on her. It hung past her thighs, the sleeves swallowing her hands, but it was dry, clean, and it smelled like him. Cedar and earth and something darker. Something that made her wolf stir for the first time in days. The door opened. Willa spun, crossing her arms over her chest even though the shirt covered her completely. He didn't look at her the way men usually did. His gaze swept over her once, assessing, then moved away. Better? She nodded. Good. You need to eat. I'm not hungry. You're starving. He moved to the small kitchen area, pulling out bread, cheese, dried meat. When he set the plate in front of her, Willa's stomach betrayed her with a loud growl. Eat. This time she didn't argue. The first bite nearly made her cry. The second made her realize she couldn't remember the last time food had tasted like anything other than ash. She ate slowly, carefully, aware of his eyes on her even though he'd moved to lean against the far wall, arms crossed. You can't stay here forever, he said finally. Willa's hand stilled halfway to her mouth. I know. Whoever's hunting you will find you eventually. I know. You need a plan. She set down the bread. I don't have one. Then you're dead. The bluntness should have stung. Instead, it felt like relief. He wasn't lying to her, wasn't pretending. Maybe that's easier, Willa whispered. Silence. When she looked up, his expression had changed, hardened. No. You don't understand. I understand that you're hurt and tired and scared. He pushed off the wall, crossing the space between them in 3 strides. But running yourself into the ground isn't courage. It's surrender. What else am I supposed to do? Fight. I can't. You knocked on my door in the middle of a storm. His gaze held hers, intense and unwavering. That's not surrender. That's survival. Willa's throat tightened. I don't even know your name, she said. He hesitated. Just for a moment. Anders. Anders, she repeated. The name felt strange on her tongue. Strong. And yours? She shouldn't tell him. Every instinct screamed not to, but he'd fed her. Cleaned her wounds, refused her degradation, and offered dignity instead. Willa. The way he said it made something in her chest twist. You can sleep in the bed. I'll take the floor. No, this is your home. Willa. She stopped. You're injured. You need rest. Don't argue. There was no room for negotiation in his voice. Too tired to fight, Willa rose and walked to the bed. It was small but clean, the blankets thick and warm. She climbed in, still wearing his shirt, and pulled the covers up to her chin. Anders moved to the fire, adding another log. Orange light painted him in shades of gold and shadow. Strong profile, broad shoulders. The way he moved spoke of control, power, purpose. Willa's eyes grew heavy. Anders? Yeah. Thank you. He didn't turn around. Sleep, Willa. And she did. But before darkness claimed her completely, she felt his gaze on her, felt the weight of it like a blanket. Not hungry. Not predatory. Something else entirely. Something that whispered, against all logic, against all reason, safe. Chapter 2. Fire, Skin, and Restraint. Morning arrived, wrapped in silence. Willa woke slowly, swimming up through layers of exhausted sleep. Warmth surrounded her. Real warmth. The kind she hadn't felt in days. For a heartbeat, she forgot where she was. Then memory crashed back. The storm, the cabin, Anders. Her eyes flew open. Sunlight streamed through a small window, painting the wooden walls gold. The fire had burned down to embers, and Anders sat in the chair she'd occupied last night, watching her with those storm-gray eyes. Willa jerked upright, wincing as the movement pulled at her wound. "Easy," Anders said. His voice was rougher than she remembered, like he hadn't slept. "How long was I asleep?" 12 hours, give or take. 12 hours. She hadn't slept that long since before everything burned. Willa's hands tightened on the blankets. "You stayed awake?" "Someone had to keep watch." "For what?" His expression didn't change. "Whatever's hunting you doesn't stop for storms." The casual way he said it sent ice down her spine. He was right. Cantrell wouldn't stop, wouldn't slow. He wanted what was in her blood, and he'd burn the entire forest to get it. "You should have woken me," Willa said. "Taken the bed." "I'm fine." "You haven't slept." "I said I'm fine." The finality in his voice made her jaw snap shut. Anders rose from the chair, moving with the kind of fluid grace that came from absolute control of one's body. He was even bigger than she'd realized last night, tall enough that he had to duck slightly to avoid the low beams, built like violence wrapped in restraint. "Your wound needs to be checked," he said. Willa's hand instinctively covered her side through the shirt. "It's fine. Let me see." "Anders." "Willa." He stopped in front of her, patient but immovable. "Either you let me check it, or infection sets in, and you lose the use of your left side. Your choice." She glared at him. He waited. With a frustrated huff, Willa lifted the edge of the shirt. Anders knelt beside the bed, his movements careful as he peeled back the bandage. His fingers were warm against her skin. Gentle, clinical, and yet Willa's breath hitched. "It's healing," he said, apparently oblivious to the way her pulse had started racing. "But slower than it should. You're not shifting." "I can't." His eyes lifted to hers. "Why not?" "My wolf is—" Willa struggled for the words. "Broken. She won't surface." Something dark flickered across Anders's face. "Trauma?" Willa nodded. He didn't push, just returned his attention to the wound, applying fresh salve with steady hands. But Willa couldn't stop watching him. Couldn't stop noticing the way his dark hair fell across his forehead, the strong line of his jaw, the breadth of his shoulders beneath his plain black shirt. He was close enough that she could feel heat radiating off him. Could smell cedar and earth and mail. Her wolf stirred, just barely. Just enough to whisper a single word in the back of Willa's mind. "Want." She shoved the thought away violently. Anders finished bandaging the wound and sat back on his heels. "You need to eat again. And drink water. A lot of it. I don't want to be trouble." Too late for that. But there was no bite in his voice. Almost a hint of something else. Something that might have been amusement. He stood. "I'll make breakfast." Willa watched him move to the small kitchen area, pulling out eggs and bread. His movements were efficient, practiced. "Do you live alone?" The question slipped out before she could stop it. "Yes." "By choice?" His hands paused for just a fraction of a second. "Yes." "Why? Why do you ask so many questions?" Heat crawled up Willa's neck. "Sorry. I prefer solitude." Anders cracked an egg into a pan with one hand. "People are complicated. Wolves more so." "You don't like other wolves?" "I didn't say that." "Then what?" "Willa." He glanced over his shoulder, and the intensity in his gaze made her words die. "Eat first, talk later." She subsided into silence. The smell of cooking food filled the cabin. Willa's stomach growled audibly. Anders slid a plate in front of her moments later, eggs and bread still steaming. "Thank you." He just nodded. They ate in silence. But it wasn't uncomfortable. Just quiet. The kind of quiet that settled like snow. When Willa finished, Anders collected her plate without a word. "I should go," she said. "Where?" "I don't know. Just away from here. You've done enough. You can barely walk." "I'll manage." "You won't make it a mile." Willa's hands clenched in the blankets. "I can't stay. Whoever's after me will have to go through me to get to you." The words landed like stones. Willa stared at him. You don't even know me. I know enough. You don't know what they want. She cut herself off. Anders turned to face her fully, arms crossed. What? Nothing. Willa. It doesn't matter. It clearly does. She shook her head, looking away. You wouldn't understand. Try me. The frustration in his voice surprised her. Willa's gaze snapped back to his. Why do you care? Because you showed up on my doorstep dying and I'm not letting you walk back out there to finish the job. That's not your decision. Yes, it is. The absolute certainty in his voice made something in her chest crack. Why? She whispered. Why does it matter to you? Anders was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was quieter, rougher. Because I know what it's like to be hunted, and I know what it's like to have nowhere to go. Willa's breath caught. Before she could respond, he turned back to the kitchen, dismissing the moment. You're staying. At least until you can shift again. Anders. That's final. And somehow, Willa didn't have the strength to argue. Hours passed. Willa dozed on and off, her body still recovering. Each time she woke, Anders was there. Not hovering, not watching obsessively, just present. A solid, steady presence that made her wolf settle in ways she didn't understand. By afternoon, restlessness drove her out of bed. I need to move, she said. I'm going crazy just lying here. Anders looked up from where he was sharpening a knife by the fire. You shouldn't be on your feet. I'll be careful. He studied her for a moment, then nodded slowly. Fine. But if that wound opens, you're back in bed. Willa stood, testing her balance. Her legs shook slightly but held. She made it 3 steps before swaying. Anders was there instantly, hand on her elbow, steadying her. Stubborn woman, he muttered. I'm fine. You're about to fall on your face. His hand was warm through the shirt, large enough to encircle her entire arm. Willa became acutely aware of how close he was, how tall, how solid, and how she was wearing nothing but his shirt. Heat flooded her face. Anders's jaw tightened. He released her immediately, stepping back. You need actual clothes. I don't have any. I know. He moved to the chest again, pulling out pants and another shirt. These will be too big, but they're better than nothing. Willa took them, careful not to let their fingers touch. I'll be outside, Anders said, already heading for the door. When he was gone, Willa changed quickly. The clothes were indeed enormous, but she rolled the pants at the waist and ankles, tied the shirt tight. Not perfect, but better. She caught her reflection in the small mirror above the wash basin and barely recognized herself. Pale, thin, dark circles under her eyes. Her black hair hung in tangled waves past her shoulders. She looked like a ghost. The door opened. Better? Anders asked. Willa nodded. Good. Come outside. You need fresh air. She followed him onto the small porch. The storm had passed, leaving the world washed clean. Sunlight filtered through pine branches, dappling the ground in gold and shadow. The air smelled of rain and earth and growing things. For the first time in days, Willa could breathe. It's beautiful, she whispered. Anders leaned against the porch railing, gaze sweeping the tree line. It's isolated. That's what matters. How long have you lived here? 3 years. 3 years. Alone in the woods. Don't you get lonely? No. The answer was immediate. Absolute. Willa studied his profile. Strong. Hard. Unyielding. I don't believe you. His gaze cut to hers. Why not? Because everyone gets lonely. Not me. Why? Because loneliness implies wanting something you don't have. Anders' voice was flat. I have everything I want. Which is? Peace. The word settled between them like snow. Willa understood that. Understood the desire to simply stop. To not fight anymore. I ruined your peace, she said quietly. Maybe. I'm sorry. Don't be. She frowned. How can you say that? I brought danger to your door. You knocked, Anders interrupted, turning to face her fully. You could have broken in, could have stolen food and run. But you knocked. You asked. That means something. What? That you're not lost yet. Willa's throat tightened. Before she could respond, Anders stiffened. His entire body went rigid, head snapping toward the forest. "What is it?" Willa whispered. "Get inside." Anders. Now. The command in his voice sent her stumbling backward. She reached the door just as Anders moved down the porch steps, placing himself between her and the trees. "Show yourself," he called. Silence. Then a figure emerged from the shadows. Male, scarred, dressed in hunter's leathers, and smiling. Well, the man said. "Didn't expect to find anyone out here, especially not her." His gaze locked on Willa, and she knew that smile, those eyes. Cantrell had found her. Chapter 3. The Hunt Returns. "Get inside," Anders said again. His voice was different now. Colder. Harder. The voice of someone who had given orders and expected them obeyed without question. Willa's feet wouldn't move. The scarred man's smile widened. "That her? The Hampton girl?" "I don't know what you're talking about," Anders said. "Sure you don't." The man took a step closer. "See, we've been tracking her for days. Thought the storm might have finished her off. But here she is. Lucky us. You're trespassing." "Am I?" The man laughed. "Funny. Didn't see any markers. Didn't smell any pack boundaries. Just empty woods. And a lone wolf who doesn't know when to mind his business. Final warning. Leave." "Or what?" The man's hand dropped to the knife at his belt. Anders didn't move, didn't flinch, but something changed. The air itself seemed to thicken, pressure building like the moment before lightning strikes. Willa's wolf whimpered. The scarred man's smile faltered. "Listen," he said, voice losing some of its cockiness. "I don't want trouble. Just hand over the girl and we all walk away." "No. She's worth a lot of money." "I don't care. You will when my pack gets here." "Your pack?" The man's grin returned. "Yeah. 6 more wolves. All trackers. All killers. They'll be here in minutes." Anders tilted his head slightly. "Then I'll deal with 7 instead of 1. "You're insane." "Maybe." The scarred man's hand tightened on his knife. "Last chance. Give her to us or we take her." Tree. It happened faster than Willa could track. The man lunged forward, knife flashing. Anders moved. One moment he was standing still. The next, he'd closed the distance, caught the man's wrist mid-strike, and twisted. Bone cracked. The man screamed. Anders released him and stepped back as the hunter dropped to his knees, cradling his shattered wrist. "Leave," Anders said quietly. "And tell whoever sent you that this territory is claimed. You don't know who you're messing with." "I don't care." The finality in those words made the man's face go pale. He scrambled backward, stumbled to his feet, and ran. Anders watched him disappear into the trees. Then he turned. Inside. Now. This time Willa moved. She practically fell through the door. Anders followed, closing and bolting it behind them. "How many did he say?" Willa demanded. 6 more? 7 total. Anders, you can't fight 7 wolves alone. "Yes, I can." The absolute certainty in his voice made her stop. "Who are you?" she whispered. He didn't answer. "Just move to the window." Scanning the tree line. "They'll surround the cabin," he said, more to himself than her. "Try to flush us out or burn us in. We have to run." "You can't run. You can barely walk." "Then I'll slow you down. Just go. Save yourself." Anders turned, and the look on his face stopped her cold. "I'm not leaving you. You don't owe me anything." "I don't care." "Anders. Enough." He crossed the space between them in 3 strides. "Listen to me very carefully. Those men want you. I don't know why. I don't know what you did or didn't do. But I know they're not taking you. Understand?" Willa's throat closed. "Why are you doing this?" "Because someone has to." That's not an answer. His jaw tightened. For a moment she thought he wouldn't respond. Then, "Because I've seen what men like that do to people they hunt, and I won't let it happen again." Again. The word hung between them, heavy with meaning Willa didn't understand. Before she could ask, a howl split the air. Close. Too close. Anders' head snapped toward the sound. "They're here." "How many?" "All of them." Another howl answered the first. Then another. And another. 7 voices, circling. Stay away from the windows, Anders ordered. No matter what happens, don't come outside. What are you going to do? He moved to the door, one hand on the handle. What I should have done 3 years ago. Anders, wait. But he was already gone. The door slammed shut behind him. Willa ran to the window, pressing her face against the glass. Anders stood in the clearing in front of the cabin, still and silent as stone. Around him, shapes moved through the trees. Large, predatory, wolves. 7 of them, just as the scarred man had said. They emerged from the forest one by one, forming a loose circle around Anders. The largest stepped forward, not the man from earlier, someone else, someone bigger. You broke Gerald's wrist, the wolf said. His voice was deep, rough. That was a mistake. He drew a weapon on my territory, Anders replied. The mistake was his. Your territory? The wolf laughed. You're nobody. A lone wolf with delusions. Then this should be easy. The wolf's smile faded. Give us the girl and we leave. Simple. No. Then you die. You can try. The wolf shifted. It happened in a heartbeat. One moment, a man. The next, a massive gray beast. Lips pulled back to reveal teeth like daggers. The other 6 followed. 7 wolves, all huge, all focused on Anders. Willa's hands clenched on the windowsill. He was outnumbered, surrounded. He was going to die. Then Anders shifted, and Willa forgot how to breathe. He was enormous, bigger than any wolf she'd ever seen, black as midnight, with eyes that glowed silver in the fading light. Power rolled off him in waves, so intense it made Willa's knees buckle even through the cabin walls. This wasn't just a strong wolf. This was something else entirely. The attacking wolves hesitated. Just for a second, that was all Anders needed. He moved like liquid violence. One moment still. The next, he'd crossed the distance and slammed into the nearest wolf with enough force to send it flying. The others attacked as one, but Anders was faster. He ducked under snapping jaws, twisted away from claws, and struck with precision that spoke of training, experience, war. One wolf went down. Then another. Blood stained the earth. The largest wolf, the leader, circled warily now. The others regrouped, more cautious. Anders stood in the center, chest heaving, eyes blazing, waiting. The leader feinted left, then lunged right. Anders met him head-on. They collided with a sound like thunder. Teeth flashed, claws raked, blood flew. For a moment they were a tangle of fur and violence. Then Anders's jaws closed on the leader's throat. He didn't bite down. Not yet. Just held. A clear message. I could kill you. But I'm giving you a choice. The leader went still. Submission. Anders released him and stepped back. The wolf shifted back to human form, blood streaming from a dozen wounds. His eyes were wide, shocked. What are you? He whispered. Anders didn't answer. Leave, he said instead. All of you. And don't come back. The man scrambled backward, grabbing his wounded packmates. Within moments, they disappeared into the forest, howls of retreat echoing behind them. Silence fell. Anders stood alone in the clearing, still in wolf form, sides heaving. Then he shifted back, human again, naked, covered in blood, most of it not his. He turned toward the cabin, and Willa stumbled away from the window. The door opened. Anders stepped inside, moving like every muscle hurt. Blood dripped from a gash on his shoulder. Claw marks raked his ribs, but he was alive. You're hurt, Willa breathed. It's nothing. Anders. I said it's nothing, but his voice was tight with pain. Willa moved without thinking. She grabbed the medical kit he'd used on her, then turned to face him. Sit. Willa. Sit. Now. His eyebrows rose, but he sat. Willa's hands shook as she dampened a cloth and began cleaning the blood. Up close, she could see the damage was worse than he'd let on. Deep gouges. Bruises already forming. You could have died, she whispered. But I didn't. 7 wolves, Anders. 7. I've fought more. The casual way he said it made her hands still. Who are you? She asked again. Does it matter? Yes. His jaw tightened. Why? Because you just risked your life for me. A stranger. Someone you found bleeding on your porch less than a day ago. Willa's voice cracked. So yes, it matters. Anders was silent for a long moment. Then, so quietly she almost missed it. I'm someone who failed to protect people before. I won't fail again. The pain in his voice made her chest ache. Willa finished cleaning the wounds and applied bandages with careful hands. When she was done, Anders caught her wrist. They'll come back, he said, with more wolves, more weapons. I know. You need to leave. Tonight. Tonight. Where would I go? Anywhere but here. Willa pulled her hand free, stepping back. No. Willa. I said no. She met his gaze, steady despite the fear curling in her stomach. I'm tired of running, tired of being hunted. If they're coming, let them come. They'll kill you. Then I'll die fighting. Anders stood, towering over her. This isn't a game. I know. Do you? His voice dropped, rough and raw. Do you have any idea what men like that will do to you before they finally let you die? Willa flinched but didn't look away. Yes, she whispered. I watched them do it to my mother. The confession hung between them like shattered glass. Anders' expression shifted. Softened. Just for a heartbeat. Then you know you can't stay. I have nowhere else to go. Then I'll find you somewhere. Why do you care? Because... He stopped, jaw working like he was fighting words that wanted out. Because what? Willa pressed. Because you deserve better than this. The gentleness in his voice nearly broke her. So do you, she said. Anders looked away. Get some sleep. We'll figure this out in the morning. Anders, please, Willa. Just rest. The exhaustion in his voice made her nod. But as she climbed into the bed, one thought circled her mind. Who was this man who fought like a demon and spoke like someone who'd lost everything? And why did her wolf whisper one word every time he was near? Mate. Chapter 4. The Bond Awakens. 3 days passed. 3 days of healing, training, and proximity that made Willa's skin feel too tight. Anders taught her to fight. Not well, not yet, but enough to give her a chance if she ran, though running was the last thing Willa wanted to do. Each morning, they went into the forest. Anders showed her how to move without sound, how to read tracks, how to strike fast and escape faster, and every lesson brought them closer. Again, Anders said. Willa lunged forward, aiming for the weak point he'd shown her. He sidestepped easily, catching her wrist and spinning her around. Her back hit his chest. Solid, warm, unmovable. Willa's breath caught. Too slow, Anders murmured near her ear. If I was an enemy, you'd be dead. Then stop being so fast. She felt rather than saw his smile. He released her, stepping back. Willa turned, cheeks flushed. This is impossible. You're too strong. You're not trying to beat me. You're learning to survive long enough to run. I don't want to run. Willa, I want to fight. Anders' expression hardened. Fighting gets you killed. So does running. Not if you're smart about it. I'm tired of being smart. Willa's hands clenched. I'm tired of hiding. Of being afraid. Fear keeps you alive. No. Fear keeps you breathing. Living is something else. Silence stretched between them. Anders looked away first. Again, he said. They trained until Willa's muscles screamed. Until sweat soaked her borrowed clothes and her lungs burned. But she didn't complain. Didn't stop. Anders watched her with something that might have been approval in his eyes. When the sun reached its peak, he finally called a halt. That's enough for today. Willa collapsed against a tree, chest heaving. I'm never going to be as fast as you. You don't need to be. You just need to be fast enough. For what? To give me time to reach you. The words settled over her like a blanket. Willa looked up, finding Anders watching her with that intense focus that made her stomach flip. Why are you really helping me? She asked. I told you. The truth, Anders. Not some noble speech about protecting the helpless. His jaw tightened. For a moment she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, because you remind me of someone. Who? Someone I couldn't save? Pain flickered across his face, raw and real. Willa stood, closing the distance between them. What happened? It doesn't matter. It does, if it's the reason you're doing this. Anders' hands clenched at his sides. You should rest. We'll train more tomorrow. Anders. Willa, please. The brokenness in his voice stopped her. She nodded slowly. Okay. That night, Willa couldn't sleep. She lay in the bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to Anders move around the cabin. He never slept in the bed. Always took the floor or the chair by the fire. Always kept distance. As if touching her might break something. Willa understood that. Understood the fear of letting someone close. But her wolf didn't care about fear. Her wolf wanted him. Wanted his strength, his warmth, his protection. Wanted him to claim what every instinct screamed already belonged to him. Willa shoved the thought away violently. This was insane. She barely knew him, and he'd made it clear he wanted nothing from her. So why did every accidental touch feel like lightning? Why did her heart race when he was near? Why did she dream about his hands, his mouth, his... A sound shattered her thoughts. Howling. Close. Too close. Willa bolted upright, just as Anders appeared at her bedside. Get dressed. Now. What's happening? They're back. Fear slammed into her. How many? More than last time. Willa threw off the blankets and grabbed her clothes. Anders turned away, giving her privacy even now. How long do we have? She asked, yanking on pants. Minutes. Maybe less. Can you fight them? Not this many. Willa's hands stilled. Then what do we do? Anders turned back, and the look on his face made her stomach drop. You run. I'll hold them off. No. Willa. I said no. She stepped toward him. I'm not leaving you. You don't have a choice. Yes, I do, and I'm staying. Damn it, Willa. The door exploded inward. Wolves poured through the opening. 5, 6, 10. Too many. Anders shifted instantly, placing himself between Willa and the attackers. But they weren't focused on her. They wanted him. 3 wolves lunged simultaneously. Anders met them with savage efficiency, but the numbers were overwhelming. Claws raked his side. Teeth found his shoulder. He roared, throwing them back. But more came. Willa's heart hammered. She had to do something. Had to help. But her wolf still wouldn't surface. Please, she begged internally. Please. He needs us. Nothing. A wolf got past Anders, rushing straight for Willa. She scrambled backward, hitting the wall. The wolf's jaws opened wide. Then Anders was there, slamming into the attacker with enough force to shake the cabin. But it left his back exposed. Another wolf lunged. No! Willa screamed. Something inside her shattered. Light exploded from her body. Pure, blinding, ancient. The attacking wolves yelped and fell back, shielding their eyes. Even Anders stumbled, shifting back to human form. Willa stared at her hands. They glowed, pulsed with power she didn't understand. Willa, Anders breathed. She looked up. The wolves were retreating, whimpering, tails between their legs. The light faded slowly. Silence fell. Willa's legs gave out. Anders caught her before she hit the ground. What was that? She whispered. His eyes were wide. Shocked. You're not just a wolf, he said. What do you mean? That power. I've only seen it once before. Where? Anders' throat worked. In the royal bloodline. The words didn't make sense. That's impossible. My mother was nobody. We were nobody. Your mother lied. No, Willa. Anders' hands tightened on her shoulders. That light, that power, it's called the Mark, and only those with direct ties to the throne can manifest it. Willa shook her head. You're wrong. I'm not. How do you know? Because, he stopped, jaw clenching. Because what, Anders? He looked away. Because I've seen it before. In my family. Your family? Yes. Who was your family? Silence. Then, so quietly she almost missed it. The throne you're tied to used to be mine. Willa's world tilted. What? Anders stood, releasing her. My name is Anders Blackthorn, and 3 years ago, I was the Alpha King. Chapter 5. The Betrayal. Willa couldn't breathe. Alpha King. The words echoed in her head, refusing to make sense. That's impossible, she whispered. The Alpha King is dead. Everyone knows that. Everyone believes what they were told, Anders said flatly. But the massacre. Your family. the council said. The council lied. His voice was hard, cold. Jeremy McCarthy and Simone Lambert framed me, made it look like I slaughtered my own blood. Then they tried to kill me. How did you survive? Luck. And the fact that I was always better at killing than they expected. Willa pushed to her feet, head spinning. Why didn't you fight back? Reclaim your throne? With what? Anders turned to face her, and the bitterness in his eyes made her flinch. My family was dead. My council turned against me. The Pax believed I was a monster. I was alone. So you hid. I survived. While people like me were hunted? The words came out sharper than she intended. Anders' expression went blank. What? You heard me. Willa's hands trembled, but her voice stayed steady. You're the Alpha King. You knew about bloodlines being hunted. You had to know. Willa, how many Anders? How many people with royal blood were killed while you hid in these woods? I didn't know. You're lying. Her voice cracked. The mercenaries hunting me have been doing this for years. Everyone whispers about it. The purge of the old bloodlines. And you're telling me the Alpha King knew nothing? Anders' jaw clenched. I knew rumors. Rumors. Yes. And you did nothing. I was dead to the world. What could I have done? Anything. The shout tore from her throat. You could have done anything. Warned people. Hidden them. Fought for them. It would have exposed me. So you chose yourself over them. Yes. The blunt admission hit like a fist. Willa stumbled back. My mother died because of what we carried. Because of royal blood. Your blood. And you did nothing. I couldn't. You mean you wouldn't? Anders' hands clenched. You don't understand. No. I understand perfectly. Willa's vision blurred with tears she refused to shed. You were broken and scared and you chose to hide, like a coward. His face went white. Willa, don't. She held up a hand. Don't try to explain. Don't try to justify it. I'm not. You let people die because saving them was too hard, too dangerous, too much of a risk. That's not fair. Fair? Willa laughed, the sound sharp and broken. My mother burned alive while men laughed, and you were here, safe, alone. I didn't know about your mother, but you knew about others. You had to. Silence. That was answer enough. Willa turned away, moving toward the door. Where are you going? Anders demanded. Anywhere but here. You can't leave. Those wolves will kill me. I know. She looked back over her shoulder. But at least they're honest about it. Willa, please. Thank you for the shelter, Your Majesty. But I think I'll take my chances with the monsters outside. She pulled open the door. Anders was there in a heartbeat, slamming it shut, caging her against the wood with his body. You're not leaving. Get off me. Not until you listen. I don't want to hear it. Too bad. His voice dropped to a growl. You're right. I hid. I chose survival over responsibility, and people died because of it. Then let me go. No, Anders. Because hiding was the wrong choice then, but letting you walk out that door would be the wrong choice now. His breath was hot against her ear. I can't fix what I didn't do, but I can protect you. And I will. I don't want your protection. I don't care what you want. Anger flared hot and bright in Willa's chest. She spun in his arms, shoving at his chest. He didn't budge. Move. No. I hate you. I know. You're a coward. I know that too. Then why won't you let me go? Anders' eyes burned into hers. Because even cowards can learn to be brave. And you make me want to try. The confession hung between them. Willa's breath came fast and shallow. They were too close. His body pressed against hers, all heat and muscle, and barely leashed power. She should push him away, should run, but her traitorous body wouldn't move. This doesn't change anything, she whispered. I know. I still don't trust you. I know. Then why? Anders kissed her. Hard, desperate, like drowning men kiss shore. Willa's mind went blank. For one heartbeat, she froze. Then her body took over. She kissed him back with all the rage and pain and confusion burning in her chest. Her hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer even as part of her screamed to push away. Anders growled against her mouth, one hand tangling in her hair, the other gripping her waist. The kiss turned savage. Teeth, tongue, need that felt like violence. Willa bit his lip hard enough to draw blood. He groaned and pressed her harder against the door. This was wrong. So wrong. But it felt like the only right thing in a world gone mad. Then reality crashed back. Willa shoved him away with strength she didn't know she had. Anders stumbled back, chest heaving, eyes wild. "Don't," Willa gasped. "Don't do that again." "Willa, I can't. Not with you. Not after." A howl split the air. Different from before. Higher. Urgent. Anders' head snapped toward the sound. "What is it?" Willa asked. "Warning call." His voice was tight. "They're coming. All of them." "How many?" He met her eyes. "All of them." Before Willa could respond, the window exploded inward. Glass rained down. A wolf landed in the cabin, massive and gray. Then another. And another. Anders shifted instantly, putting himself between Willa and the attackers. But this time was different. This time they didn't want to fight. They wanted to capture. A net flew through the air, weighted and silver-threaded. It wrapped around Anders, dragging him down. He roared, struggling against the binding. "Run!" He snarled at Willa. But she couldn't move, couldn't breathe. More wolves poured through the broken window and shattered door. Hands grabbed Willa from behind. She screamed, fighting. But human strength was nothing against wolf power. Something sharp pricked her neck. Poison. Sedative. Something that made the world tilt. The last thing Willa saw before darkness claimed her was Anders, still struggling against the silver net, eyes blazing with fury, and something that looked like fear. Then nothing. Chapter 6. The war for her. Willa woke to the sound of dripping water. Cold, damp, dark. She tried to move and discovered her wrists were bound above her head, chain links rattling against stone. Panic flooded her system. "Ah, you're awake." The voice came from the shadows. A figure stepped into the dim torchlight, and Willa's blood turned to ice. Wesley Cantrell, older than the men who'd attacked the cabin, scarred, with eyes like chips of ice. "Do you know who I am?" he asked. Willa didn't answer. "I'm the man who burned your home, who killed your mother." He smiled. "And now I have you. What do you want?" "What I've always wanted. Your blood." Fear clawed at her throat. "Why?" "Because royal blood is the key to legitimacy. And your particular bloodline?" Cantrell laughed. "It's the oldest, the purest, the one that can confirm or deny any claim to the throne." Understanding crashed over her. "You want to use me to prove someone's right to rule. Very good, though it's not quite that simple." "Then what?" "I want to use you to expose the pretender currently trying to reclaim his throne." Willa's heart stopped. "Anders." So you do know." Cantrell's smile widened. "Tell me, did he explain why he's been hiding? Why he didn't fight for his throne?" "He said he was framed." "He was. By me." The casual admission made Willa's stomach turn. "Why?" "Because Anders Blackthorn was weak, too merciful, too soft." Cantrell circled her slowly. The kingdom needed strength, leadership, not a king who questioned every execution and hesitated to crush rebellion. "So you killed his family and blamed him?" "Yes, and it worked beautifully. Until now." "What changed?" "He did." Cantrell stopped in front of her. "He's been gathering support, calling in old allies, planning to take back what he lost." "Good. Is it?" Cantrell tilted his head. "Because once your blood confirms he's the rightful king, my employer will have no choice but to eliminate him. Publicly. Permanently." "Who's your employer?" "Someone with their own claim to the throne. Someone who will pay handsomely for proof that Anders is a murderer and a fraud." Willa's mind raced. "Jeremy McCarthy." Cantrell's smile was answer enough. "You're working for the council." "Was. Now I work for the man who will be king once Anders is dead." Fury burned through Willa's fear. "He'll come for me," she said. "I'm counting on it." Cantrell leaned closer. "In fact, I've made sure he knows exactly where you are. This fortress is a trap, and your precious king is walking right into it. You'll lose." "Will I?" Cantrell gestured to the chains holding her. "He'll come alone, desperate, reckless. and we'll be waiting with 200 soldiers. Willa's heart sank. 200. Anders couldn't fight that many. Nobody could. Don't worry, Cantrell said, turning away. We'll keep you alive long enough to watch him die. Then we'll take what we need from you and dispose of what's left. He disappeared into the shadows, leaving Willa alone in the dark. Hours passed. Maybe days. Time blurred. Willa's wrists bled where the chains bit into skin. Her body ached. Hunger and thirst made her head spin, but she didn't break. Couldn't break. Because Anders was coming. She knew it with bone-deep certainty. He'd come. And he'd die trying to save her. Unless she found a way out first. Willa tested the chains again. Solid. Unbreakable. Her wolf stirred weakly. Still damaged. Still broken. Please, Willa begged. I need you. A flicker of response. Faint. But there. Willa closed her eyes, reaching inward for that spark of power that had erupted before. Nothing happened. She tried again. And again. Still nothing. Frustration mounted. Come on, please. Then she heard it. Footsteps. Running. Shouting. Battle cries. Anders. Willa's eyes flew open. Explosions rocked the fortress. The sound of breaking stone. Screams. He was here. And he'd brought war. Anders moved through the fortress like a storm made flesh. Soldiers fell before him. Dozens. Scores. Blood painted the stone floors. But he didn't stop. Didn't slow. Every instinct screamed one word. Willa. He had to reach her. Had to get her out. Even if it killed him. Especially if it killed him. Because somewhere between finding her broken on his porch and watching her taken, something had changed. She wasn't just someone he was protecting. She was his. Mate. Queen. Heart. Everything. And he would burn this fortress to ash to get her back. A group of soldiers blocked his path. Anders didn't shift. Didn't need to. He moved through them like death incarnate, blade flashing, efficient and brutal. When the last body fell, he kept running. Down corridors. Through halls. Following instinct and the bond he'd felt since the moment she'd appeared at his door. A bond he'd tried to deny. Failed to deny. Finally, he found the stairs leading down. Into darkness. Into the dungeons. Anders descended. At the bottom, torchlight flickered. And there, in the center of the cell, Willa. Chained. Bleeding. Beautiful. Alive. Relief nearly drove him to his knees. Anders. She breathed. He was across the cell in 2 strides, hands already working at the chains. I've got you. You're safe now. It's a trap. Cantrell. I know. Then why did you come? Anders met her eyes. Because I'm done hiding. The chains broke. Willa fell forward, and Anders caught her, holding her like she might disappear. Can you walk? I think so. Good, because we're leaving. Anders, there are hundreds of soldiers. I brought help. As if summoned by his words, howls echoed through the fortress. Willa's eyes widened. What did you do? Called in every favor I had. Every wolf who still believed. Anders pulled back just enough to cup her face. I told them the truth. All of it. And they came. How many? Enough. Before Willa could respond, footsteps thundered down the stairs. Soldiers, at least 20. Anders shifted, placing himself between Willa and the attackers. Stay behind me. Anders. Trust me. The soldiers charged. Anders met them. But this time, he wasn't alone. Willa felt the power building inside her again. Stronger than before. The mark responding to danger. To need. To him. Light exploded from her body. The soldiers screamed, falling back. But the light didn't just repel. It revealed. Under its glare, one of the soldiers began to convulse. Words tore from his throat. Unbidden. Jeremy McCarthy paid us. Gave orders to kill the king. Frame him for the massacre. Another soldier dropped to his knees. Simone Lambert orchestrated everything. She wanted the throne for herself. More confessions spilled out. Names. Dates. Details. Everything. The truth laid bare under Willa's light. And in the doorway, watching with fury in his eyes, stood Wesley Cantrell. Enough! He roared. He shifted, lunging for Willa. Anders intercepted him mid-leap. They collided with savage force. Claws, teeth, violence. Willa's light pulsed brighter, illuminating every corner of the cell. Under its glare, Cantrell began to speak, words he didn't want to say. McCarthy promised me wealth, power, a place at the new king's side. We killed the royal family, made it look like Anders did it. We hunted the bloodlines to erase legitimacy, to make sure no one could challenge our claim. Every secret, every crime, exposed. Cantrell's eyes went wide with horror as his own voice condemned him. Anders' jaws closed around his throat. One snap. Silence. Cantrell's body hit the floor and didn't move. The light faded. Willa swayed. Anders shifted back to human form and caught her. "It's over," he murmured. "You're safe." "Is he dead?" "Yes." Willa's legs gave out. Anders lifted her into his arms, cradling her against his chest. "I've got you." "You came," she whispered. "Always. Even after what I said?" "Especially after what you said." Anders' arms tightened. "You were right. About all of it. I was a coward. I hid while people died. Anders. But I'm not hiding anymore. And I'm not letting you go." Willa's throat closed. Anders carried her up the stairs, through corridors littered with bodies, past wolves who bowed as he passed, into the courtyard where the battle had ended. And there, in the center, stood a group of wolves Willa didn't recognize. "The council," Anders said quietly. "Or what's left of it after McCarthy and Lambert's betrayal." The lead wolf, an older man with gray in his hair, stepped forward. "Your Majesty." Anders inclined his head. "Gerald, the fortress is secure. McCarthy and Lambert have been taken into custody, and every soldier who fought against you has heard the confessions." "Good." Gerald's gaze shifted to Willa. "Is this the woman with the mark?" "Yes." "Then the prophecy is true. Royal blood calls to royal blood." "It would seem so." "Will you reclaim the throne?" Anders looked down at Willa. "That depends." "On what?" she asked. "On whether you'll stand beside me when I do." Willa's breath caught. "Anders, I know I don't deserve it. I know I failed people like you. Failed to protect what I should have protected." His voice roughened. "But I swear to you, Willa, if you give me this chance, I will spend every day earning it. I will be the king I should have been, and I will never, ever let anyone hurt you again." Tears blurred her vision. "You're asking me to be your queen. I'm asking you to be my mate, my partner, my everything." Anders' forehead touched hers. "You asked me once why I helped you. The truth is, from the moment you knocked on my door, my wolf knew. You were mine, and I was yours. I just didn't want to admit it." "Why not?" "Because I didn't deserve you. And now? I still don't. But I'm hoping you'll let me try." Willa's hands came up to frame his face. "You're an idiot." "I know. And a coward." "I know. But you came for me anyway." "I always will." "Then yes," Willa whispered. "Yes to all of it." Anders kissed her. Soft this time, tender. A promise rather than a claim. Around them, wolves howled approval. And somewhere deep in Willa's chest, her wolf finally healed. "Mate," it whispered. Home. Chapter 7. The King and His Queen. 3 months later, the coronation was nothing like Willa had imagined. No grand ceremony in a glittering hall. No hundreds of witnesses in formal dress. Just wolves, hundreds of them, gathered in a clearing in the northern forest where the old throne had once stood. Simple, raw, real. Anders stood at the center, dressed in black, looking every inch the king he'd been born to be. And beside him, in a dress the color of moonlight, stood Willa, the new Alpha King and his queen. Gerald stepped forward, carrying a crown of woven silver. Anders Blackthorn. "Do you swear to lead with strength and mercy? To protect the weak and punish the wicked? To rule not for yourself, but for all wolves under your care?" "I do." The crown settled on his head. Then Gerald turned to Willa, holding a second crown. "Willa Hampton, do you swear to stand beside your king? To guide with wisdom and compassion? To be the light that reveals truth in darkness?" Willa's throat tightened. "I do." The crown settled on her head, lighter than she'd expected. Gerald stepped back. "Then I present to you, Anders and Willa Blackthorn, Your alpha king and queen. The wolves erupted. Howls filled the air, joyous and wild. Anders turned to Willa, eyes soft. Regret it yet? Ask me in 100 years. He smiled. Really smiled. The first time she'd seen it. And it transformed him from dangerous to devastating. I'll hold you to that. Then he kissed her in front of everyone, claiming her publicly and absolutely. When they finally pulled apart, Willa was breathless. Show off, she muttered. You love it. Maybe. Definitely. Willa laughed, the sound bright and free. Around them, the celebration continued. Wolves shifting, running, celebrating the return of their king. But Anders led Willa away from the crowd, toward the tree line. Where are we going? You'll see. They walked in comfortable silence until the sounds of the celebration faded. Then Anders stopped. In front of them stood a cabin. Small, isolated, familiar. You kept it, Willa breathed. Of course I did. Anders pulled her close. This is where everything started. Where you knocked on my door and changed my life. I was dying. I was dead. You brought me back. Willa turned in his arms to face him. What now? Now we rebuild. Together. The kingdom? The kingdom. Our lives. Everything. It won't be easy. Nothing worth having is. Willa smiled. When did you become so wise? About 3 seconds after I met you. She laughed again, rising on her toes to kiss him. This kiss was different from the others. Slower. Deeper. A promise of forever. When they finally broke apart, Anders rested his forehead against hers. There's one more thing. What? He pulled back just enough to meet her eyes. The bond. I've been holding back, waiting until you were ready. But if you want to complete it, yes. I didn't finish the question. I don't care. Yes. Anders' eyes flashed silver. You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything. Once it's done, there's no going back. You'll be mine. Completely. And you'll be mine. I already am. Willa pulled him down for another kiss. Then stop talking and claim me. Anders growled, low and possessive. Then he lifted her into his arms and carried her into the cabin, into the home where it all began. The door closed behind them, and outside, under the moon, the forest sang. Epilogue. 5 years later, the cabin looked the same, a little more worn, a little more lived in, but the same. Willa stood on the porch, hand resting on her swollen belly, watching the tree line. Behind her, the door opened. Anders stepped out, a small child balanced on his hip. Their daughter, Clara, 3 years old, with her father's dark hair and her mother's eyes. Mama, Clara squealed, reaching for Willa. Anders handed her over carefully, mindful of Willa's pregnancy. She's been asking for you all morning. I was only gone an hour. Tell her that. Willa laughed, pressing a kiss to Clara's forehead. Were you good for Papa? Always. Anders answered before Clara could. Willa shot him a look. You're teaching her to be as impossible as you. She comes by it naturally. Clara giggled, squirming to be put down. Willa set her on the porch, and the child immediately ran to the steps, pointing at the forest. Wolves! And indeed, 3 wolves emerged from the trees. Young ones. Children from the packs, who came monthly to visit their king and queen, to play with the princess, to see that the stories were true, that the Alpha King who'd been lost had returned, that the woman with the mark stood beside him, that hope had survived the darkness. Anders' arm wrapped around Willa's waist, pulling her back against his chest. Happy? He murmured. Willa leaned into his warmth, watching their daughter laugh as the wolf pups shifted to human form to play with her. Yes. Even with another one on the way? Especially with another one on the way. Anders' hand joined hers on her belly. You know the council thinks you're insane for staying out here instead of the palace. The council can think what they want. They want you safe, protected. I am safe. I have you. Willa. She turned in his arms, silencing him with a kiss. This is where we belong, she said against his mouth. Not in some gilded palace. Here, where we found each other. Anders' eyes softened. The cabin's getting crowded. Then we'll build bigger. The council can visit if they want to see their king. Willa smiled. But we're not leaving. Not for anyone. Anders studied her face for a long moment, then nodded. As you command, my queen. Damn right. They stood together, watching their daughter play, feeling the life growing between them, and remembered a storm, a door, a desperate offer, a refusal that became a rescue that became a bond that became a kingdom, and above them, carved into the doorframe where no one but them could see, were words Anders had etched years ago. Here, we chose each other. Here, we began. Here, we belong. Thank you for experiencing this story. If you felt the pain, the hope, the love, please rate this story from 1 to 10 inches the comments. I love hearing which moments stayed with you most. And if stories like this speak to you, subscribe to Ariel Romance Library. Every subscription helps more people find these tales of darkness and light, pain and healing, loss and love. Thank you for being here.